Yo, how's it going? How y'all living? Greetings and bienvenue. Today we got Ben 10 versus Sukuna isn't even fair. And that is true. Ben 10 at his weakest. Kid Ben 10 can beat Sukuna, and this video will prove that I'm right.
Sukuna, whether you like him or not, is the strongest opposing force within the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. After seeing how he pretty much ran the greatest gauntlet in modern manga history, today I wanted to put him up against a hero who, similarly to Yuji Itadori, was put in an odd position and decided to make the most of it and fight to protect those he loves. That being, of course, the baddest kid who ever saved the day, Ben Tennyson. We've talked about where he stacks up in his stronger renditions, whether it's Alien Force, Ultimate Alien, or even Omniverse. But now that I think of it, I never actually put specifically Kid Ben 10 in a versus battle, especially regarding his iconic roster that was the original Omnitrix. So what if you took this annoying little shit and put him up against pretty much the strongest sorcerer in history? And I also thought it was kind of fitting because, you know, JJK Modulo, you know, the aliens are a Sukuna level threat, so have Sukuna, the original big threat, fight.
But I ain't gonna lie, bro. Give me... I think forearms could like tank a malevolent shrine. I don't know why, but if Ben had a map like a full control to like switch aliens, I ain't gonna lie, Sukuna has no chance because with the hands, Sukuna has 4 hands, 4 arms. Ben 10 can switch to 4 arms and go. If Sukuna tries to use the fire arrow, heat blast, like, you know what I'm saying? You know what? Give me Diamond Head. I'm pretty sure Diamond Head could beat Sukuna Dolo.
The guy who turns into aliens? Yeah, I honestly don't even know what the correlation is. I just wanted to talk about this and I had to get this fatty Jaden on the video, so allow me to domain expand your mind to my vision.
Sukuna is the strongest opposing force within Jujutsu Kaisen, scaling above the likes of Jogo's Meteor, Urame's Frost Calm, and even Ryu Ishigori's full-powered Granite Black. All of these feats would come out to around 2 kilotons or even possibly 100 megatons worth of force. Granted, this would be Sukuna when using more advanced moves and techniques, but generally his physical prowess should be somewhere around large city level, and of course, due to having a more refined technique, he'd technically have a stronger domain than Jogo and Dagon, but that doesn't obviously mean that he is mountain or island level. You see, cursed energy construction can't really be compared back to how much you're able to destroy with your cursed energy, given that domains are made to buff the user like a video game, so it wouldn't really make any sense for Sukuna to simply be island level because he had a better domain than Dagon, who made an island. My friend Shiny actually has a far more in-depth video about this topic that, funnily enough, puts JJK at a more realistic level, or at least a level that Gege was more so intending for them to be at. Saying Sukuna is significantly above the city level attacks within the verse isn't ridiculous to say, especially when he's not even in his prime when he convoluted, but luckily we know where Sukuna ranges, so we can really just compare his highest output and his highest set feats to Ben's best showings.
Now, Ben often utilizes Diamond Head, Heat Blast, Accelerate, and Forearms for combat and to get things done. Diamond Head, even in episode 1 of the original series, can deflect lasers from Vilgax's drones, which obviously are cannon fodder compared to his henchmen and Vilgax himself. These drones are able to crash land onto Earth and form craters the size of mini nuclear bombs. The amount of energy they would have needed based on the velocity that they were crash landing on Earth at comes out to around roughly 127 megatons of TNT. Now, for reference, this is several...
I ain't gonna lie, he is saying a whole bunch of gibberish right now, man. Megatons, gilotons, gigatons.
times stronger than the likes of Jogo's Meteor, Urame's Frost Calm Breath, and Ryu's Maximum Granite Blast. Meaning even the likes of 15-finger Sukuna unironically would be getting pressed in terms of strength by episode 1 Diamond Head. And while yes, this is a significantly weaker version of Sukuna compared to his prime, and he does show much better feats later on, obviously so does Ben Tennyson, because this is only a feat that happens in episode 1. With the likes of Heat Blast, we've seen him evaporate literal bodies of water that could generate thunderstorms. These storms can exceed over 79 megatons of TNT, and we see Heat Blast not at his hottest, being able to literally evaporate this same monster and clear the skies. Other aliens such as Ben Wolf, who the original roster should definitely scale to, can create storms with his sonic screams at a relative scale to this as well.
But now I'm just thinking about it. The only way Sukuna has a chance, from what I'm hearing so far, is Ben turns into forearms and they just go. They're just like, mono on mono, forearms to forearms, then Sukuna definitely has Ben, because Ben isn't the most, especially at that time, he ain't the most like taijutsu. Like he isn't a taijutsu expert like Sukuna is. So yeah, that's the only way Sukuna can win, in my opinion.
We know as well, it's stated in the Fountain of Youth episode that Heat Blast, when he's specifically enraged, can reach supernova levels of hot. And if we take this at face value, which honestly, I don't see why we wouldn't do this, since this is just the lore of Heat Blast's race and what they can do, but Heat Blast's fire should be exceeding over 16 gigatons of energy. For reference, this is hundreds of times stronger than Sukuna's max outputted Fuga, but what's funny about this is Heat Blast should just be able to absorb as much as he is able to produce in terms of firepower. Meaning, unironically, before Sukuna could even think of firing a Fuga arrow, all of that fire would just get absorbed by Heat Blast and it would taste like a yummy snack. But granted, this attack does take a significant amount of time to build up, and Sukuna of course has other options like Cleave and Dismantle, which adjust to the opponent's durability. However, we know Ben's other aliens are unironically going to be able to at least push through the weaker slash attacks due to them just fighting much more threatening and stronger opponents physically. Kevin, who has 1/10 of Heat Blast's full firepower, and Vilgax, who himself has survived island level nuclear bombs, have both been beaten by the young hero of heroes and at the same time as well. Pretty much while Sukuna at his absolute best is destroying cities to maybe even a mountain if we're pushing it, unironically Sukuna's gonna be like a two-parter villain of an episode for Ben to handle. He's casually dealing with threats on Sukuna's level and beings who far surpass him. For example, Vilgax himself apparently has survived black holes, is a threat to the planet itself, and obviously Ben has dealt with other threats such as the Big Tick, who over time could destroy Earth. And mind
Bro, this video is a lot longer than I thought, just to say Ben 10 is going to beat up Sukuna. At this point, he might as well just go into Cannonbolt, because in this episode, for what I remember is true, Cannonbolt was able to defeat the Big Tick, which is a planetary threat. So that means Ben 10 in Cannonball 4 can roll through a Dismantle, roll through a Malevolent Shrine, and just beat up Sukuna, bro. This video is a lot longer than I thought.
To put a crack into the Big Tick at the point in time of season 2, meaning he objectively does just hit the hardest in his original roster. So whether it's a punch from Forearms, a dash from Accelerate, a Crystal Throne from Diamond Head, or a Fireball from Heat Blast, or even a full powered blast from the likes of Upgrade, all of these guys pretty much are playing 10 ways to die with Sukuna here. Now, I barely mentioned Accelerate in this section, and that's because he's going to be a very vital point in the next section, that being of course speed. Okay, so if Sukuna doesn't have the AP to contend with Ben's stronger or more relevant aliens, surely he could just speed blitz and slash him to death, right? Well, I hate to break it to you, Ryomen Lover 35, but no. Ben, you see, surprisingly isn't just capped at quote-unquote human level and has shown some pretty ridiculous speed feats. Ben and Gwen themselves have reacted to electricity and laser fire, and of course we have Ben's aliens doing the exact same thing, with Accelerate clearly being his fastest alien. Accelerate is notorious for moving so fast that he quite literally was shown in basically Time Stop, which required Accelerate to accelerate at 356 times the speed of sound. I'm so sorry, that joke was really bad. My bad. Anywho, not only has Accelerate reacted to lightning and lasers himself, but we've seen Ben's other aliens do the exact same thing, with even Ben by episode 1 being able to block light beams from Vilgax's drones. And we know these beams are in fact light based because Diamond Head is able to refract them off of his skin, and we know that it's stated that he can do that with light/lasers. Compare this to Sukuna, who's maybe at best 54 times faster than an attack that initially moves past the speed of sound. Now of course we have Kashimo's infamous lightspeed blast that Sukuna was able to barely dodge, but it's clear that the attack itself had to have been charged up, meaning Sukuna could have just simply evaded right before the blast itself went off rather than moving faster than the attack.
Well, Ben is able to wait, has Ben ever captured a speedster in like a regular form? I don't think so, but Ben is fast. Like he said, apparently in human form, Ben can dodge lightning and goddamn laser beam. So, you know what I'm saying?
The best thing I could say for Sukuna is that he maybe upscales from Kashimo's lightning bolts, which is fine, I guess. That would mean he'd be relative to much slower characters compared to Ben's fastest alien. I mean, he'd unironically be Ben for Ben with Kid Gwen in terms of combat reaction speed. And so before he'd be able to cast Domain or really any technique, Accelerate would be fast enough to just blitz and overwhelm reaction speed. And so before he'd be able to cast Domain or really any technique, Accelerate would be fast enough to just blitz and overwhelm Sukuna here. Another person to mention here is of course Stinkfly, who is able to perform pretty much the same reaction and combat feats as the other guys here, but of course he has the added ability to fly, giving him much better mobility compared to his other aliens besides Accelerate.
Okay, so if bro isn't faster and bro isn't stronger, can he at least cheese his way through a W using Malevolent Shrine or maybe Maharaga? We can just, for the sake of the argument, assume that Ben will be caught within Malevolent Shrine. Malevolent Shrine has a radius of 200 meters, and Ben can pretty much just walk right out. Even Choso says that it should be pretty easy, except there's obviously an onslaught of slashing attacks. Anything within Malevolent Shrine that has cursed energy is going to be attacked with Cleave, and
Ben 10 doesn't have cursed energy.
anything that doesn't have cursed energy, which is pretty much just Ben, will be attacked with the regular old Dismantle, which is the slashing attack that Sukuna throws at pretty much anybody. Seeing as Gojo was able to be hit with the full force of Malevolent Shrine in a condensed area, right? When Sukuna shrunk the size of the domain to be even more potent at an area less than 200 meters, those cuts didn't even cut straight through Gojo's neck. Gojo was actually able to heal and do this multiple times. Not only is Ben 10 stronger, faster, more durable, and arguably even more intelligent, but with a much better arsenal for dealing with a wide variety of techniques like this, escaping an area of 200 meters which can't even cut down Gojo in one swoop is definitely not going to do anything to Ben 10. Maharaga is a little bit tricky, obviously because he has the ability to adapt to any and all phenomenon, but Maharaga doesn't really seem to get stronger and faster through these adaptations. Maharaga finds counters to Gojo's Limitless, like changing the essence of his cursed energy or even creating the world-cutting slash, but he doesn't really get a stat increase. When he fights Sukuna in Shibuya, who is clearly much faster and stronger than Maharaga,
I'm not even gonna lie, one super heat blast attack. Cooked.
Maharaga adapts multiple times, and none of those adaptations include getting stronger or faster. It just seems to be the case that Maharaga can develop counterattacks to techniques, but it's not like he's going to get stronger and faster just by making adaptations. You could say that it's possible for Maharaga to get stronger and faster through adaptations, but it's more so that in character, it doesn't really seem to be something he ever does. Regardless of that, that doesn't really solve the problem of Maharaga himself, right? Even if Maharaga isn't getting stronger or faster, you still can't take him out without hitting him with a new attack before he can adapt. Sukuna did this through Divine Flame, and Gojo did this through Unlimited Hollow Purple, and Ben 10 has a multitude of techniques that he can use to just completely obliterate Maharaga. If Ben were to not transform into any of the aliens that were mentioned in this video, he would probably get cooked, but at the end of the day, it is pretty obvious that Ben has a ton of attacks that would completely obliterate Maharaga.
And I thought it would be really cool to mention here, if Ghost Freak for some reason decides to take over and try and possess Sukuna, this would not work at all, and he'd literally get Mahito'd. Sukuna has a much better understanding of his soul, and it's not like Ghost Freak's possession hasn't been resisted by Ben before anyway. So it'd be very easy for Sukuna to pull.
I completely forgot about Ghost Freak, bro.